Welcome friend to this session of data application block. What we'll do is that in this session we'll first understand the fundamentals of data application block, and then we will do a small practical and see that how we can bring down a project time using data application block. Now when we talk about any project, DAL component becomes one of the very important part of the project. uh, Data application block gives you a ready-made data access layer, that means a DAL component. Okay, let me show you what exactly it does. First thing, you can see in your screen that what we have is I have a simple database here, and this database name is basically mycustomer.mdf, and it has a simple customer table which has basically two fields, customer code and customer name. And in the table I have simple two or three rows, two rows with some customer code and customer name, right? Now, in order to fetch this data, what you'll do in your code is that first thing you'll import the data in the SQL client, because this is SQL Server currently. Open the SQL connection, create a data set, open the connection, create a command, set the stored procedure. Currently, this is my stored procedure. It does nothing great. If you really see, what it does is basically just selects the star from the customer table what we have currently, right? So set the command text, open the connection, create adapter, fill it, then bind the data grid. Now, this the if you look at the number of lines what we have to do this task, right, is definitely very big, and it doesn't really sound sense that you keep on coding again and again the same routines for the inserts, updates, selects, and etc. So what data application block does is it makes this all these lines of code into probably some one or two lines of code. So what we'll do is that we will try to execute the same functionality using data application block. So first let's pull out our enterprise library configuration, open the config file. Currently this project is web data access, so let's open the config file, and you can see that by default it has already a local server, a local SQL server added in the data application block. Now what we'll do is that we'll first pull out the connection string and we will set the connection string. So let me make the connection string which will points toward my customer MDF, right? Second, I'll also change this name and I'll say it, my server, my database, right? And what I'll do is that, I'll say by default, always open my database, right? And I save it. So what will happen is basically it will add some extra tags into the config file. Now we don't need to worry all those things. We'll just delete it out. We need to do first two things. We need to first import Microsoft Data Application Block. So view Solution Explorer, first add the references to Microsoft practices.enterprise data and Microsoft practices.enterprise library.common, and import Microsoft practices.enterprise.data and Microsoft.practices.enterprise.data.sql, because we are connecting to SQL Server, right? Just for your knowledge sake, I've just kept a simple data grid over here, right? So this data grid is where we will display the customer data. Now the first thing what you need to do is that it has a factory class called as database factory. So what you need to do is that you need to say create database. This returns basically a database object. So what we'll do is that we'll create a database object, say boss, and say please do point towards this database object, right? And after that we'll say obj data.execute dataset, right? And in the execute dataset I would like to say please pass in the stored procedure name. So view Solution Explorer, view Database Explorer, sp underscore get customer. So sp underscore get customer, right? And this will return me a data set, and now this I can bind to my grid data source, and finally I'll bind it to my, I'll just call the bind method. So That's it. So you can see that we have reduced the 7 or 8 lines of code to just 3 lines of code, right? So I'll just build this, and now you can run it, and you can see that how data application block has reduced our 7 to 8 lines of code to just 3 lines of code, and that's it. It has displayed the data. So basically, as I said, data application block forms your DAL component of your project. So as I've said, in my previous videos, that data application block should not be, it should not be thought that we should use or not, but it is compulsory to use in .NET projects, because it brings down completely your data access coding from data access coding to approximately 60 to 70%. So I hope that you must have understood the importance of data access layer, and hope that you can bring down your project time, or at least you can use this ready-made DAL component to see that how you can to ready-made DAL component in your project.